Welcome everyone back to Weekly Weather Updates, and in today's video we're going to have a look at the latest from the live radar, the weather warnings, and then we'll go through the latest from the longer term outlook with the GFS, GM, ECMWF, GFS and ECMWF Ensembles, and then we'll finish up with the UK Met Office run as well, having a look at precipitation and temperature. Now we've had quite a wintry last sort of 2 days or so for many in the north and the west. However, generally milder conditions are going to be coming this weekend. Still chilly for some, but not quite as cold as it's been recently, before high pressure really does dominate next week, likely bringing seasonable conditions. So still quite chilly, overnight frosts, and temperatures of the day around or maybe slightly below average. And in the longer term, it's what happens to that high pressure. We're still seeing signals, especially from the GFS, for some very cold conditions in the second half of January, and we'll have to see how that does evolve. So remember, if you enjoy my videos, make sure you like and subscribe, and remember to follow on Twitter as well. The link's in the description, and also do check out the channel membership as well. Ad revenue in January is really terrible, so please do help me out if you want to support the channel. So if you do have a look at the latest from the live radar, you can see there is still a few showers around, and we have that area of precipitation in the far southwest that's moved into France now. It was a bit further northwards and a little bit bigger than modelled yesterday. It didn't produce too much snow, nothing too significant. Over the highest ground, over the parts of the south and southwest, we did see some flakes, some light accumulations, but nothing crazy. And it's even low-lying areas. We did see a few sort of sleety flakes, but nothing major with that. Again, it was bringing in a bit milder air. That's why we saw that extended area of precipitation. So it was always going to be a little bit marginal, and it unfortunately fell on the side of rain. But we weren't expecting anything too significant with it. Now we still have a few showers around at the moment, pushing in from the northwest. Could still bring a few flakes to a few areas in the Midlands, maybe even down into parts of the southeast. We've still got a few showers around. These will turn more wintry tonight as temperatures do start to drop, and we do have ice warnings that we'll have a look at in a minute. As temperatures, well, skies clear, could still fall to around freezing or below that ahead of the weather front that is going to be slowly moving in this evening into tomorrow morning. That's going to be bringing milder air in. But you can see a lot of those wintry showers have sort of dissipated away. Now, if we do go over to the layers and have a look at the past 24-hour snowfall, we had a look at this yesterday, and we can see once again where the most widespread snowfall has been. Many parts of Ireland, Northern Ireland, parts of Northern England, Wales and Scotland have seen snowfall. Now you can see many areas did see a few centimetres of falling snow over the last 48 hours. Really in the areas that we did expect, generally northern Scotland, into western Scotland over the course of the last 24 hours, more of those showers, down into northern England, parts of Wales, and into Ireland, Northern Ireland as well. So not a majorly wintry spell of weather really, because we haven't seen that much major snowfall on the ground. But to high areas there are some decent snowfalls, and quite a few areas in these regions, as you can see here, have seen some snow falling out of the sky. Now, if we do have a look at the weather warnings, because temperatures aren't going to drop away tonight, and in many of these areas which have an ice warning, we've seen precipitation today. Some of it may have been falling as rain, sleet, or snow, and some of these areas it may still be above freezing at the moment, and it might just look wet outside. However, temperatures where skies clear will fall, and because these areas have seen quite a bit of precipitation today, any of that moisture will freeze, and we do have 2 ice warnings out from 3:30 to midnight tonight. As of course I said, in the morning temperatures are going to start to turn milder, so if you're only up by probably 8-9 a.m, temperatures will be well above freezing in the west. Maybe the far east may still hold on to some colder temperatures, but these temperatures will be rising after around midnight. So yeah, icy surfaces on Friday evening could lead to tricky conditions. Early wintry showers in the north and rain, sleet and hail snow further south will leave surfaces cold and wet by early evening. Clear spells for a time will allow ice to form, particularly for evening commuters, before temperatures trend up after midnight as we see that weather front move in. Again, high likelihood, low impact, as it does look like it's likely to happen, but of course it only lasts a few hours this evening. Not a widespread frost tonight, especially in the west, of course. So we do now have a look at the longer term trends, we'll have a look at the GFS, GM, and ECMWF. Now, in yesterday's video, we saw the GFS and its ensembles were trending much colder, and that has continued today, but we haven't seen too much support from the other models yet. So we of course have to take with a pinch of salt, because a lot of things can happen in sort of the 7-day plus time frame. They generally do agree now to around 7 days with high pressure over the top of the UK, a general easterly flow, so the air coming in off the continent, low dew points, generally average to below average temperatures, chilly seasonal conditions. But it's what happens after that is where we see the big uncertainty. So if you run through the GFS, see what that does show, you can see again westerly winds moving over the next few days. As I said, does look like quite westerly, Atlantic driven over the next few days, with warmer, cooler sectors, but nothing too cold over the next couple of days. Through Monday though, high pressure will build, and you can see it builds over the whole of the country. Now, if we look at the upper air temperatures, it doesn't look particularly cold. Some chillier air in the far southeast, and it could be a scenario actually the north and the west sees slightly mild conditions in the far south and east, because we're seeing a bit more of an air flowing off the Atlantic. So that's very possible in this scenario. But generally, under the centre of the high, it's going to be chilly, even though the upper air temperatures aren't particularly cold. Towards the surface, it's going to be pretty chilly, if not really quite cold, as we see an inversion take place. Now, the uncertainty does build at around 168 hours and beyond. Where does this high pressure go, and what happens to the low pressure jet stream sort of influence? Now, on this latest GFS run, similar to what it was doing yesterday on most of its runs, is it sort of transforms or moves the tropospheric polar vortex towards Scandinavia, splits it a little bit, and we start to see higher pressure towards Greenland. And what we see here is something that we saw in the December charts, that big flip we saw in around the Christmas period. This is a very similar scenario. However, the cold wins out, and we do see much colder northerly air flows moving in, low pressure systems sliding into this colder air and potentially producing quite significant snowfall for right towards the end of the run. We have the jet stream trying to push out back in against the cold Scandinavia European block of frigid air that would be trying to hold this off. So GFS once again showing a pretty decent cold and wintry spell in and around sort of the day 10 to day 14 time frame. Pretty much the sort of 5th, 6th consecutive run it's done this now. So GFS is definitely seeing something with the models to producing mid-Atlantic to Greenland blocking, but hasn't come into the other models particularly. Really hasn't come into them other models in their sort of day 10 time frame as of yet. But of course, things can change, and we'll have to see how it does develop. Now, if we do have a look at what is happening with the GM run. Now again, this, as I said, it does broadly follow the GFS out to day 7. We do see, again, low pressure systems over the next few days, and then high pressure moving in over the top of the UK, maybe a bit positioned a bit further southwards, so less of an easterly influence, would still be, though, chilly under the higher pressure, even though the upper air temperatures are really quite mild, especially in the south, where there's low mixing of air, because the winds are really light in the centre of the low. We could see some quite cold conditions towards the surface. However, dissimilar to the GFS, beyond day 7, we see the Atlantic come back into play. Now, it does try to ridge towards Greenland. See this little bit of amplification in the jet stream. However, there's no massive height rises there. We still see a lot of low pressure towards northeast Canada, so I would bet that this would just go westerly after this, with these low pressure systems toppling any high pressure trying to ridge further northwards. So GM is a little bit contradicting the GFS at this stage. But again, it is day 10, so there is a lot of uncertainty in play. I probably would favour the GFS scenario at this stage, just because what we see with the ensembles at the end of the video, they are more favouring the GFS solution, which is high pressure trying to ridge into the North Atlantic towards Greenland and being a little bit more successful than the GM is showing. So yeah, I would favour that, because I'd say at the moment maybe a half to 2/3 of the ensemble members are going for a colder or at least colder weather for a time beyond sort of the 15th of January. But again, as I said, things can change. Now, if we do have a look at the ECMWF run, this is from midnight, so a little bit more out of date than the other runs, but of course, we'll have a look at it. And you can see, of course, generally westerly conditions over the next couple of days. And then we see high pressure build in, again, a little bit further southwards. So once again, the chillier conditions would be in the south. Further northwards, we'd see a bit more mixing of air coming in off the Atlantic. And then as we move towards day 10, we see ridging occurring. Again, we see this sort of split in the tropospheric polar vortex with a big lobe of cold air heading towards Scandinavia. And we do try to get heights rise to our north. Doesn't quite come off, but at least in the ECMWF, we see that ridge heading northwards. And again, as I said, it doesn't quite come off, but we're seeing a similar sort of blocking pattern, or at least attempt at a blocking pattern to the GFS. So yeah, definitely does look like there is an attempt going on within the models at the sort of the day 7 to day 10 time frame with this high pressure to turn things even colder. But as we've seen with these models, it's by no means guaranteed, and there definitely is a westerly scenario at this stage, as ever with wintry weather. There's always going to be a milder scenario. At this stage, I would favour the colder scenario, but only marginally, just because of what the ensembles are showing. And if we do have a look at the ensembles, if we go out to day 7 where the uncertainty does build, you can see the majority of them have high pressure centred over the top of the UK. Just depends how far northwards that high pressure gets and whether it's ridging towards Greenland yet. So very subtle difference, and then could make a degree or two difference at the surface for a few, just depending on the positioning of that high. Now if we move out to day 10, so 3 days moving, so if we do move it 3 days on, we can see 49% with the control and operational run have high pressure centred and to the west of the United Kingdom and the British Isles. And you can see generally we'd still be under a kind of chilly flow, and we'd be trying to pull in colder air in from the north. But you can see there is a bit more energy in the jet stream with low pressure still over Greenland, so would be still trying to build in a little bit more of a west influence. But by no means is it mild with what we saw in the GEM run. If we have a look at 17 ensemble members, going with a similar scenario, but this high pressure a bit further out into the mid-Atlantic, which means more of a northwesterly flow, and we'd expect even chillier with that, and you can see a bit more blocking towards northern Canada. So definitely would fall in line with the more northwesterly winds, maybe northerly winds, or maybe transient northerly winds. Then we have another 9 with mid-Atlantic ridge, quite a strong mid-Atlantic ridge, getting towards Greenland, and more of a northerly flow, really quite cold northerly flow, probably similar to what the GFS run was showing. So you can see broad sort of range of outcomes, all showing something similar in terms of positioning of sort of high pressure, low pressure, but just how strong they are could make big differences. Now if we go up to 300 hours, you can see 21 or 41.2% have a very cold scenario favoured with northerly or northeasterly winds. And you can see mid-Atlantic ridge extended towards Greenland. Now it's by no means a massive blocked sustained cold spell, because we'd want sort of reds up towards Greenland if we wanted to see a big blocking feature, but at least it looks like it would be temporarily cold. Transient northerlies, a generally cold outlook with that jet stream coming in more of a northerly direction. So by no means is it showing a bitterly cold, sustained week-on-week spell of colder conditions, but it is showing temporary colder weather, at least for a few days there, if we did see that sort of pattern come off. Now if we also have a look at 16 ensemble members, which are going for just a big North Atlantic ridge, heading up towards Iceland, Greenland, again would be chilly with northeasterly or easterly flows, but because we're mainly under the higher pressure, it would be pretty dry, maybe a few wintry showers in the east, but it would be cold, dry, and yeah, well, I'd say really quite cold and dry if we did get some of these really cold air masses moving in from Scandinavia. And then another 14 with similar conditions we're going to be seeing next week, with high pressure just centred over top of the UK, maybe to the east, pulling in a little bit of an easterly flow coming up against an Atlantic flow. And then finally we go right to the end, 360 hours. Again, we see 21 or 41.2% with mid-Atlantic ridge, northwesterly to northerly winds. Another 16 with high pressure centre over the top of the UK. Easterly flow, but nothing too crazy. Would be chilly, cold, but nothing too majorly wintry. And then 14 with Atlantic trying to battle up against a European, Scandinavian sort of high, which would be trying to hold on to chilly continental flow. So you can see with these ensembles, they're definitely sort of going for a colder scenario, but nothing majorly wintry. I do want to make sure I say that, because some people will comment and say, oh, going over the top again, having a look at wintry conditions. By no means am I saying it's going to be guaranteed to be wintry the second half of January, but the latest models and the latest trends is looking colder than average, or at least average to colder than average. And if we do have a look at the GFS ensembles, you can see that really well reflected towards the end of these runs. Now you can see generally milder than average from around the sort of early next week to around 15th of January, but that's because we have an inversion, of course. Mild upper air temperatures in the high pressure, but towards the surface it actually be pretty chilly. So not going to be all too mild next week. Going to be pretty chilly indeed, but there could be a few milder days over the next 2 or 3 days as we still have low pressure systems moving in. But of course there'll be more rain, cloud and wind around with that. So again, it depends what you like, milder, wet and windy, or drier and chilly conditions. I definitely would prefer the dry chilly conditions. And then, similar to what we've been seeing on the last day or two of GFS ensemble runs, we see around 15th, 16th of January, those temperatures really start to plummet. We see a consistent signal now for those temperatures getting down to around -5 at 850 HPA on quite a few of the runs. As I said, at least a half, if not 2/3 of the ensemble runs down towards -5 at 850 HPA in around the 17th, 18th of January, and most of them holding there, and some even going into the absolute freezer, including the GFS Operational Run towards the end of the run. We can see, though, if we have a look at the operational run, which is the thicker green line, it's actually on the milder end of the ensemble spectrum, and in and around the 16th, 17th of January at day 10. So that GFS run was actually milder than the majority of the ensemble runs at day 10. So definitely GFS is very much being the leader here with these colder than average conditions in the second half of January, and it'll be very interesting to see if it is getting it right. It's been very consistent with it. It's not like it's flip-flopping. One run it shows very cold, one run it shows just average conditions. It has been consistently showing pretty chilly conditions over the last few days. So, I mean, we've got to believe it at some point. I mean, definitely when it gets into sort of the day 7 time frame, we'll very much be looking more at details and believing it a lot more. But we've got to believe these trends at this stage. Definitely does look like the general model trends are colder conditions, or at least chillier conditions, coming in next week and beyond. Now, if we do have a look also at the 2 meter temperatures, which is very important, of course, as we're seeing inversion next week, you can see temperatures not that mild at all, around 5-6 degrees highs, around freezing lows, again, depending on cloud amounts, of course. And then beyond that, in the longer term, majority of the ensemble members 3-4 degrees highs, but that's the average. Those are mild conditions getting sort of bringing those temperatures up. But of course, there are some colder solutions probably bringing them down. So around 3 or 4 degrees is what it's showing. So quite cold, not on the absolute freezer, but quite cold on the majority of the ensemble runs, and pretty low precipitation. So looking pretty dry and chilly. Also, an important thing to have a look at is the dew point. And after these Atlantic systems come through and sort of around middle of next week, dew points are going to be around freezing, if not below freezing, and it's going to stay like that on the average for the foreseeable future, really. And that basically symbolises cold air masses in from the north or east. So, yeah, looks chilly on these ensemble runs. Now, if we do finish up, have a look at the UKMO office run. Just have a look at the next 5 days or so. I've looked at this quite detail over the last few days, so I won't go through this. I'll go through this quite quickly. So you do have a look. We still have a few showers around over the course of this evening, but those are going to sort of filter away and sort of simmer down over the course of this evening. And we see a weather front arrive from the west, and that's why by around midnight we're going to start to see rain encroaching in on the far west, and it will be firmly in Northern Ireland, by around 9-10 p.m. tonight. Could be snow on its leading edge in the north, but it's got quite a big mild sector within it, so majority of areas will be seeing rain with this. And it's going to be spread through quite a wet morning in central southern England, and there could be quite a squally band of rain on its back edge as it does move through. So do take care of that, as that will be moving through around mid-late morning through lunchtime into early afternoon for many areas across England and Wales. Beyond that, we eventually do see some colder air filter back in, but again, mainly wintry over the hills, nowhere near as extensive wintry showers as we've had over the last couple of days. And then generally conditions are quite showery through Sunday again, a few wintry showers around here or there before we see another weather front move in by Wednesday. And then we do start to see high pressure build in. You can see things turning much drier and some clearer skies building in. Now, if we do have a look at the max temperatures, you can see this afternoon in and around 2, 3, 4 degree highs, if not colder than that in a few spots. So in and around this evening, we see temperatures getting around freezing quite widely. However, by midnight, you see those temperatures starting to rise in the west. Still cold in the east, so could be ice patches around, but rising quite substantially. And for many, by sunrise, temperatures are a good couple degrees above freezing, but in the far east could still be chilly around 7, 8 a.m. For many areas tomorrow, it's pretty mild, considering what we've had the last couple of days, 7, 8, 9 degrees, but in from the west, colder temperatures will be returning. And through Saturday night, temperatures could cool down once again to around, or maybe a touch below freezing. And then Sunday, can be a chilly day, 5, 6, 7 degrees, but not quite as cold as today or yesterday. And then early hours of Monday could be a frost once again in the east, but nothing too crazy. Before Monday afternoon into the evening, we start to see a milder air mass move in, temporarily, of course, and we see some colder air in the north. And then by Wednesday, things are chilly, and we're going to be starting to get that inversion. So these temperatures are going to be quite up and down over the next few days before they should start to become a little bit more consistent next week with the colder, chillier, higher pressure. So thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new, and I'll see you again for another video soon.